face down!
Suspect is out of the car.
Stay where you are!
But I haven't done anything.
On the ground, face down!
I just wanted to see people.
Don't come any closer!
One of the cops accidentally fires but doesn't hit him, and Adam takes off running. Because he's a man, and men are stronger than women, don't you know, he's able to outrun the police, while the reporter exclaims in amazement. Now I can kind of imagine female cops of this generation not knowing how to anticipate youthful male capabilities and maybe not reacting quickly, but this is just presented in a really condescending way.
This is just unbelievable. The suspect seems to have outrun the police.
The average woman may not be as strong as the average man, but cops are not average women. They train to the necessary job requirements. The criminals of this world aren't going to be average women either. This is just a stupid sexist joke not really thought through. Adam runs out in front of Esther's car and he gets in. Esther marvels at this glorious man. I mean, it's gawking, similar to the apes gawking at Taylor as the weird human, but there's this sense of honoring him as a man. The case attracts the attention of FBI agents Kara Hastings, played by Tamlin Tomita, who I best know as the Chinese ambassador on Stardate SG-1, and Green, played by Nancy Hauer, who was Samantha Wildman on Voyager. These characters are easily the best part of the film. There's no stupid condescending stuff with them, they're just two women good at their jobs. Kara is surprised to hear that the male criminal appears to be in his early 20s, given that the only living men are old. Wait, living men? The past 20 minutes gave no indication of any living men whatsoever, but the rest of the movie just works with the premise that men are an oppressed minority. Then why the hell were they all freaking out at the presence of a man? It's not just that they're afraid of men, they were acting truly astonished that a man was in the city, in the planet of the women. The writing doesn't even make sense in its own context. Green assumes that this man, who she refers to as a Y, stole the car from Hope. Kara is a better, more driven detective, and she doesn't want to make any assumptions. Hope could be an ally of the criminal Y. Wait, does this make Adam Y the last man? Esther and Hope sneak Adam into Esther's house. Hope and Esther are Adam's allies in the terrifying planet of the women, showing that not all women are bad, similar to the chimpanzee scientist characters Cornelius and Zira in Planet of the Apes. They finally explain what's going on, which Esther does with the help of some visual aids that just happen to be sitting on her computer. World War III was waged, with the United States fighting Al-Qaeda, an interesting detail considering that this was made pre-9/11. It may have been inspired by the terrorist attacks on U.S. embassy buildings in 1998. In Last Man on Planet Earth, Al-Qaeda attacked U.S. soil in a series of terrorist attacks utilizing biological weaponry with the intent to kill women and children, which planted the seeds for the current views about masculine aggression. The U.S. retaliated with the Y-bomb, a genetic virus called Y necrosis, which was intended to target the Y chromosome and then only kill men, to only target aggressors and spare non-combatants. Y necrosis mutated, got way out of control, and the entire world was infected by this genetic virus that kills men, leaving only a small minority of living men and keeping the population from growing due to male babies dying quickly. Similar to the simian flu virus in Rise and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, leaving the apes free to have a planet of them.
Within months, 97% of the world's male population had been wiped out.
The United States Census Bureau estimates that in 2000, there were approximately 3 billion males in the world. Subtracting 97% from that leaves approximately 90 million. Let's say that 30 years have gone by. The CIA reports that in the year 2012, the global mortality rate was about 8 deaths per year per 1,000 humans. That's 21.6 million losses, leaving about 68.4 million. The United States population is about 4.5% of the global population, leaving about 3 million males in the United States. For comparison, there were about 1 million native Hawaiians in the United States in 2010. 3 million is a minority, but that's far too large a population to make it absolutely astonishing to see a man only a generation later. Even if there were only 1 million left, that wouldn't warrant that reaction. All units respond! This is 8472 to dispatch. I have a native Hawaiian. Did you say Hawaiian? Dr. Beverly Stokes, the Surgeon General, then came into power as this straw feminist anti-male politician. She kind of reminds me of the figures of Aldo and Caesar in the original Planet of the Apes series. In the video, she has this body language where she holds herself with the strict tension associated with evil militaristic regimes like the Nazis and the Communists. I see this body language used a lot with straw feminists, used to communicate their violent personalities, barely restrained by decorum. It's a bit of a double standard, as the tense military body language is often used to communicate all-American discipline, honor, and leadership qualities with male characters, while women are so expected to be soft and gentle that any sort of militaristic behavior comes across as over-the-top evil. Stokes declared that men have a genetic predisposition towards violence, and that women should rule the world.
This last terrible act has provided us with an opportunity, a chance to rebuild for our daughters and our granddaughters a world without crime, without violence, without war. A world without men.
We have no use for a king.
Beware the beast man, for he is the devil's pawn.
This is a distortion of several legitimate feminist points. Men are naturally more violent to some extent, with the high levels of testosterone contributing to rage and aggression, but for the most part it's culture. Men are socialized to view aggression as a good way to solve problems.
I need a weapon.
Right this way.
So men in power tend to act in aggressive ways. In a patriarchal society, masculinity is seen as better than femininity, meaning that aggressive ideas are looked upon more favorably. The argument goes that women in power would be better suited to leading peacefully because they would have less aggressive personalities, because they were socialized with different ideals. The real goal is to propagate ideas typically associated with femininity, promoting peace and respect for fellow human beings, and to essentially make societies more feminine in terms of social values. What the film is doing is simplifying all feminist arguments into men are evil, and then putting forward the message that women can be evil too, as if this were a concept never considered, all as a means for shutting down feminist criticism. It's sexist and just plain lazy writing. Anyway, Stokes pledged to outlaw men and was greeted by thunderous applause. Despite part of her argument being that they had all lost beloved male relatives,
We lost our sons, our husbands, and our fathers, and I feel their absence as much as any of you.
thus making this the worst crowd in history to sell this idea to, a man then assassinated her, and this turned her into a martyr figure, convincing women that men were evil, despite their mourning their beloved male relatives. And they made reproduction only occur with human cloning, thus creating the planet of the evil lesbian feminists. Though really it's just the country of the evil lesbian feminists. Why not just go to Canada? I know America is the center of the universe, but this started as a worldwide story with the virus part, and now it's bizarrely restricted to the country, while acting like it's a worldwide dystopia with no hope of escape for men. Maybe the other countries followed suit, but that is never stated. While there are certain evil lesbian feminists in the real world, they do not represent the vast majority of feminists, and would never be allowed to take over the country like this. The movie frames it as if this was all that feminism is, and that part is where it gets massively sexist. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is able to feature a few bad feminists like Anya without being sexist, because it understands that they do not represent feminism, and prominently features good feminist characters like Buffy. And there's a funny sequence in Season 6, Episode 18, Entropy, where Anya tries to get actual lesbians Willow and Tara to want to hurt men, out of a mistaken belief that women only date each other out of dislike of men.
God, what kind of lesbians are you? If you love men so much, go love men!
There is none of that nuance in this film. It's just feminism bad. Women can be violent too. Adam accepts the philosophy that men are evil and freaks out at being a monster. Hope reassures him, saying that she altered his genetic code to make him a good man, free of aggression. Well, what kind of message is that? It's still gender essentialist nonsense. Hope intends to present him at a scientific conference in order to sell the public on creating good men to populate the world again, thereby freeing heterosexual women from the tyranny of lesbians forcing homosexuality upon them. I hate this film. Meanwhile, an FBI scientist determines that Adam is only 33 days old, a fast-aging synthetic male produced without copying an existing man's DNA. Agent Green reports that Hope Chase has been missing for over a month, and she thinks that Adam kidnapped her. Kara isn't so sure, suspecting Hope of creating Adam. The scientist flirts with Kara. Kara smiles, but rejects her because she doesn't date co-workers.
Anytime you want to exchange some bodily fluids. I don't date at the office.
It's indicated that Kara is an actual lesbian, and this film gets some appreciation from the LGBT community for featuring a relatively positive depiction of lesbian sexuality out in the open. I get it. There are so many god-awful lesbian films out there that I can understand why this depiction may be preferable to straight women experimentation and domestic abuse stories that are popular to lesbian films. At the same time, though, this relatively positive depiction of lesbian flirtation is only allowed because of a premise about evil lesbians oppressing straight women. So you'll forgive me if I don't jump for joy over this one. Director Riggs checks in on Karen Green. Like Stokes, she has the militaristic body language of an evil woman, and will be our straw feminist for the evening. She and Kara do a little fight for dominance, with Kara challenging her and ultimately deferring. I don't know if this is supposed to be a lesbian top thing, or them assuming masculine roles in absence of men, but it outlines their characters as ambitious, prickly leaders. Kara and Green go to talk with Hope's co-worker Esther, and Esther sends Hope and Adam upstairs while she talks with the agents. However, Esther is terrible under pressure, and she totally gives away her involvement. First by saying Adam's name, and then by asking for a lawyer when Kara asks to use her bathroom. I really don't like shows that imply that anyone who requests a lawyer is automatically guilty of something, as cops frequently abuse their power and exploit every single thing they can to indict people.
My advice to you, Justice Jackson was right. Any sane, competent lawyer in his right mind will always tell every client under all circumstances, I don't care if you're innocent. I don't care if it's the truth. If it's the truth, great. We'll tell the jury all about it. There'll be time enough to put our cards on the table. But before we get there, I haven't seen yet what the police got. They may have mistaken and confused witnesses who will contradict even the truthful stuff that you say. We have no way to know, no way to predict whether the information that you give them, even if truthful and reliable, will end up unwittingly dispelling our demise. So keep your mouth shut. Don't answer any questions. Let's take the fifth. You'll be glad that you did. God bless America. God bless the Bill of Rights and the geniuses who bequeathed it to us.
And feds are just cops with more authority. As a black woman, Esther is especially vulnerable to police abuse, and should have every reason to be concerned that a fed wants to sneak around her house, regardless of whether or not she's involved in a crime. As it turns out, Kara does want to snoop around, so I don't know what the big deal is about Esther thinking that they suspect her. Meanwhile, in the bedroom, Adam eats an apple, because symbolism demands it. Not that this symbolism really means anything. There's no real paradise and no temptation to leave it. It's just, he's Adam, he eats an apple. That's what he does, right? It's about as meaningful as the random Christian references in Death Note. Esther calls up to warn them about Agent Hastings approaching, and they attempt to egress through a window, only Adam managing to escape. Kara tries to shoot him, but Hope grabs her and Green shoots her. Now that Adam's sneaking around the planet of the women, we get a look at the lives of some civilians. 2 moms and their daughter Karen. It reminds me of the 2001 Planet of the Apes remake, where Leo sneaks around after escaping, and we see into the lives of various ape citizens, which is based on Taylor's sneaking around Ape City in the original. There's some kind of soap opera on television, because of course a society of all women would put soap operas on prime time, with women kissing and clearly enjoying themselves. It kind of reminds me of Lost Girl. We hear a woman say that it's disgusting.
That's disgusting.
And then the camera pans over to show that it's a lesbian talking. There are 2 women together, watching TV as a romantic activity, and one wife is going on about how the TV character cheated on her girlfriend with this other character.
It's just funny.
Fuck you.
Its humor is based on the assumption that homophobia is the norm, making it as funny to see lesbians doing mundane things like straight people do, as it is to see apes doing things that humans do. Lesbians existing shouldn't be a joke. The women make out a bit, and then stop when they see a news report warning about the escaped male.
Where are you going? I want to hear this.
Like everything else, it's exaggerated paranoia about what Adam is capable of, saying he's armed and responsible for a shooting, meaning Green shooting Hope. Again, it's sexist for invalidating the legitimate fears of male violence against women, and it's a missed opportunity for commentary on racism. Their daughter Karen is in her bedroom, apparently masturbating to a picture of a man in a remarkably well-preserved magazine. I get the impression that this is her filling the role of a pervy teen boy in the absence of actual teen boys in this society. I think the idea that girls can be just as pervy as boys is better understood now in the post-Twilight world. Karen is also a straight girl in the closet. It's implied that her older sister Lila is also straight and was disowned by her conservative, heterophobic parents. Again, it's sort of pro-gay in that it presents the problems gay people deal with in such a way that straight people can empathize, but it's problematic when evil lesbians artificially create the conditions, and straight people should just care about gay people for being people. After her mother say goodnight to her, she sneaks out to have a night on the town. Adam grabs her to ask for help. He initially restrains her and puts his hand over her mouth to keep her from freaking out before he can make his case, which makes me wonder exactly how nonviolence is defined here.
I isolated the genes that are linked to aggression and violence and eliminated them.
You can't eliminate violence, that makes no sense. Karen is overjoyed to be able to spend time with a real man, and she kind of fetishizes the stereotype of men as aggressive in a similar way to those racist rape fantasies about violent men of color dominating white women. To their credit, Karen is indicated to be wrongly projecting her fantasies on an innocent guy who wants nothing to do with them. Similar to Karen acting as the straight girl stand-in for gay girls, Adam kind of works as a stand-in for women who are fetishized by men, who project these fantasies onto them, and it's kind of feminist as a result. There's also a recurring joke where Karen doesn't know exactly what male genitalia looks like, and just uses the description, long and pointy. I might be giving the movie too much credit, but I get the impression that this is a spoof of teen boys not knowing what female genitalia looks like, which is also kind of feminist. Not, a lot. At the hospital, Kara interrogates Hope, because Hope and Adam are love interests. Kara is able to read her as a closet hetero, and spout some hateful heterophobic nonsense.
You're one of those closet hetero cases, aren't you? But dirty holograms, they're not enough for you. You need the real sweaty, hairy thing. Just thinking about it makes me sick.
Again, it creates empathy for the oppressed, but anger at the lesbian. At least in Kara's case, I think we're supposed to like her and forgive her for being ignorant. Meanwhile, Karen takes Adam to see her sister Lila, who is apparently a streetwalker who dresses butch in order to attract straight women. The name Lila is Hebrew for night, and is a frequent name for villain characters. Lila promises Adam that she can take him somewhere safe to hide from the cops, and then she turns around and sells him to a bordello owner named Mother May. Joke's on her, though, as she doesn't get paid. The bordello is the first time we see other men. They're all elderly sex workers in the arms of stately women. I feel like this part is empathetic to women in the real world caught in the sex trade, by having the men act as sympathetic characters in the role reversal dynamic. Adam tries to leave, but a goon forces him to stay at gunpoint. Because it's a smart move to kill the most valuable asset they have. I get the feeling we're supposed to laugh at her because a woman fills the classic goon role that is considered innately masculine, so we're essentially laughing at the idea that a woman could do a man's job, making this sexist moment number 344. Karen is unable to get home before her parents realize she's gone, so she makes up a story about Adam kidnapping her that's pretty obviously just some sexual fantasy of hers. Kara and Green get her story, and it's plain to see that they don't believe her.
He gagged you.
This comes across as a stereotypical story about a woman faking sexual assault, in line with misogynistic views about female rape survivors who come forward, as well as being ageist and depicting her as a shallow teenager making stuff up because it sounds fun.
Now I've got a teenager going on TV telling America this wife tried to rape her.
She tells her story on a talk show, The Jesse Singer Show, which sounds like a parody of Jerry Springer, but it's just a generic talk show. Kara has Green tail her. Adam, meanwhile, is told to have sex with a client. He seems moderately up for it until she tries to get him to assume the dominant role in a BDSM game and spank her, but he can't because he's programmed for nonviolence. Well, again, what constitutes violence? She obviously wants it and has the power in this dynamic. I'm afraid that this might be an anti-BDSM thing that condemns consensual sadomasochistic interaction as violent. To be fair, he's clearly not interested in her the way that she wants him to be, and it's likely that they're simply incompatible, but the capacity to commit violence is what's focused on. At the same time, though, it continues the condemnation of women fetishizing Adam for fantasizing that he's violent. Hope attacks a nurse, takes her clothes, and sneaks out of the hospital. She finds Karen at her school and grills her for information. Green follows her. Hope finds Lila, who leads her to Mother May's, and she pays for a night with Adam, somehow acquiring the money despite just escaping from police custody. Because they're love interests. This is a romantic moment.
So good to see you.
Then the FBI storm the place and arrest everyone, Kara wielding a pistol sword because this is the 1700s. Mother May is alarmed because she has a deal with the police. Technically, Kara isn't authorized to bust the place. So wait, Not only are there dozens of male sex workers living in the city, but the police know about them. That astonishment at a male criminal keeps looking more and more stupid. Kara closes in on Adam and Hope, but Riggs sticks her head out of a room and they lose her. I guess this might be to indicate that Riggs is a closet hetero. I don't think we see any female sex workers there, so she's just a big old hypocrite. There are plenty of homophobic politicians who get caught in some bathroom with a guy, so that might be what they're going for here. The cop grabs Hope, and Hope makes Adam leave with a male sex worker named Bobby for safety.
You're in control.